Al, I bet the people at home thought, oh man, the end of the year's coming up. I bet there's no more Otome to talk about. But guess what? They're wrong.
Super wrong.
Because there's always Otome to talk about.
Well, I wish there was more Otome to talk about, but this is what we got right now.
We're going to talk about more Otome.
Yeah, we are.
Specifically, Al's going to talk about more Otome.
Well, you're gonna participate.
Well, yes, but like I didn't play the game, so like you're
No.
going to obviously be the one talking about this game.
Yes, yes.
Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Season Labor Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello. I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc Al and Lady. I'm the queen of Otome.
Hello.
Had to get that in there this time, or else you would have yelled at me again.
I would not have yelled at you.
You yelled at me last time.
I kindly suggested that you forgot my title.
You were like, how dare you? Ow. That's what I get for making it more of a big deal. I injure myself.
See?
It's my own fault there. Yes, you're talking about another Otome game this week.
Yes, I am.
This is episode 204. I don't know if I said that, but I wanted to make
You
mention
didn't.
so I didn't act like, or didn't seem like I forgot, because I totally didn't forget. I looked it up. Thank you very much.
Oh, man.
But yes, Otome.
Yes. I need you to say the title because it's French.
Calf and chant. No. I got you, buddy. Ho ho ho. Bonjour. Je m'appelle Jared. I don't know how you would. This is probably not going to be right, but I'm just going to say it anyways because I don't know how you would say Otome in French if there's a different like let's say like name for it or anything. We're just going to go with Le Otome is Café Enchanté.
There we go.
I took 4 semesters of French and don't remember any of it anymore.
I mean, you just introduced yourself and introduced
I can remember that much. That's about it.
this Otome that has a French title that you made fun of me for saying it wrong.
Yeah, it has the accents on it, so it's obviously you got to say it correctly. Café Enchanté.
Enchanté.
Yeah.
Which that's how they say it in the game, so.
Exactly. Japan loves France.
Yeah.
No, that's like legitimately a thing.
No, I know.
Yeah,
I'm
so.
agreeing with you. So this game is crazy as Otome tends to be. So I'm going to read the very quick synopsis here on the website. Are you ready?
I love synopses.
This is gonna boil down the gist of this. When Katone inherits her grandfather's Tokyo Café, she discovers the shop holds more secrets than anyone could imagine. The cafe is a meeting spot for beings from multiple mystical worlds. You'll meet the king of demons, a humanoid beast, a fallen angel, and more. And when government agents monitoring non-human activities show up at your door, your new cafe is about to become a lot more colorful. So, yeah, that's where we start our story. You're playing as Katone Awaki, and her grandpa died, and sent her a letter and was like, "Hey, you don't have to, but if you want to, you can run my cafe. Here's the key. Have fun." So she goes in. She's like, "All right, cool. You know, I'll go check it out. I'll see what this is about. I kind of hate my job right now, and you know, looking to get out. We'll see what my possibilities are here. Maybe this will
I'm always
be nice.
looking to get out.
Might be a nice change of pace for me." So she goes to the cafe and she's like, "Oh, okay. You know, it's nice. It's just like I remember it when I was a kid. You know, I think I could see myself here. Huh? What's this staff-only door? I don't remember this staff-only door. What's behind here? Huh? I open this door and there is another door. Why is there another door here? Why does it say closed? Huh? I'm going to switch it to say open."
I love to say "huh" a lot.
Yep. Well, she's kind of confused this whole time. So she switches it to open, and immediately this demon king sweeps out of the door and grabs her by the waist and is like in her face and is like, hello.
Hello.
Um, and then at the same time, you have a fallen angel, a beast guy, a headless man. Actually, he was a knight at the time, so you didn't know he was headless then, but he was dressed as a knight. He showed up, and then you have your demon king, and they're just like, "Hey, what up? You know, it's been a while. Where's the old man?" She's like, "Oh, he died."
He's too busy being in Yakuza 7.
Oh man. Um, and so they're all kind of sad about that because they were all friends with him, and um, so then they're asking like, "Oh, hey, well, are you gonna keep it open?" She's like, "I don't know. I'm thinking about it. We'll see." And so then they start like explaining what they are, and that's when we break down of like, "Oh, hey, I'm a demon king. I'm a fallen angel. I'm a beast man. I'm a fire wolf. Um,
Ooh.
I am a fairy." Like that, they just break all that down for you. Um,
Very casually. What was that?
to get Maxwell away from the Love Live figures.
Oh, okay.
Um, um, so she's just like, okay, well, this is weird. I need a moment to think about this. I'm gonna go to the hotel down the street, and I'm just gonna, you know, sit on this overnight. I'm like, okay, just make sure you come back. So she goes and stays at a hotel and is trying to figure out what she wants to do. Is really freaked out by these guys that just appeared out of a door in the cafe, who
What do you
are
mean?
claiming
You
to
would be
be.
very okay with that?
I mean, who knows, man? I don't know how I'd react. Um, so she goes back to the cafe the next day and is talking to. I'm gonna actually give them names now. Demon King is Mizir Rex. And he's like, "Oh hey,
Sounds like he's just very French. Like, oh, Monsieur X.
Mizir Rex, Misyr." Isn't that how you would say it?
I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, he's like, "Oh, you came back. What do you think?" And then these guys all show up in suits, and they're like, "Hey,
And then they leave.
so we heard that you're gonna take over this cafe. We can't let you do that because that gate in the cafe is a gate to other worlds, and that's dangerous for the entire world. So we're taking this from you." And she gets confused because she's an Otome protagonist. And all the guys are like, no. And so they start fighting the I forget what the group is called. What are they called? The Government Paranormalism Measures Organization. They
Oh, yes, the GPMA.
organization?
Oh, GPMO.
Yeah.
Shh.
So the dudes are like, no, these guys suck. We're gonna fight now. So they just get into like a big street brawl.
So this is just a Yakuza game.
Basically, this is also where she learns that Canis Espada is headless because he gets like punched in the head and his helmet comes flying off and his head just like goes rolling. She's like,
Yeah, imagine like if he got punched in the head, it would be very easy that just to fall off.
I mean, like he doesn't have a. I mean, he does have a head. You just can't see it.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah, but he did. He lost his head. She's just like, um. So the guys are able to push them away, and you also get the guy who is in charge of the Government Paranormalism Measures Organization. Would you say GPMO? He's the one who's in charge of looking over the cafe, and he comes up. He's like, "You know, I told them not to do that. real sorry about that. Maybe we should just go in and talk over coffee. That'd be nice. And she's like, oh, I don't know how to make coffee.
Just
All
put it
right.
in the machine.
Time to run a cafe when you don't know how to make coffee.
Hey.
So they all just kind of like chat, learn who they are. So our beast boy is Ignis Carbunculus, which, yeah, they just went hard on that one. Like I said, Headless Man is Canis Espada. Demon Lord is Mizir Rex. You have the Fallen Angel, who is Il Fado de Re. I don't know how to say that. He just goes by Il.
Yo, this dude's ill.
Also, he's super into Otome games. And then Rindo, who is the human.
The boring guy.
He's the 42-year-old man.
With the bad goatee.
Oh, his goatee's so bad. It's so bad. And it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to be like, oh, okay, 42-year-old guy, like, it's 10 years older than me. But no, she's 19, so it's a little bit weird. And I say this when all the other guys are like hundreds of years old, but it's just weird to me. This human's 42 and going after a 19-year-old girl. Go figure. So she's still trying to figure out everything, and Mizir is like, I want to throw you a party as a welcoming thing. You don't have to take the cafe, but I just want to throw a party. And so I need you to leave for a bit, go get some snacks. I'm going to set everything up. And then she comes back and the cafe has become like super enchanted. And there's like a big garden tea party inside. She's like, this is not what it looked like at all. What is this? He's like, oh, I used some magic, made a party. So they eat and drink and talk about their worlds. So again, Mizir is the demon king of the demon world. So he discusses that.
I'd hope he's the demon king of the demon world, not like some other world.
Canis Espada is from the fairy world Medio. He is a fairy, as I mentioned. Il is a fallen angel from Kaon. And then Ignis is a fire wolf, a fire werewolf from Bestia. Very creative names here. And then you can also talk to Rindo about the GPMO.
He's from Earth.
He's from Earth.
He's from the human world.
So she's just kind of like getting to know these guys. There's one part I just shot that's hilarious of Canis Espada. He runs around in his casual attire, which is like a white shirt and like a green vest, like a puffy green vest.
It's gotta be comfy.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to wear that night outfit all the time.
Exactly.
And she's asking him like, hey, aren't people gonna think weird things if you go outside? Because like, the whole helmet on your head thing. And she didn't mention the helmet on the head. She just says, aren't they going to think that's weird? And he's like, well, I thought I coordinated my attire quite well. Something off? She's like, your head is off. Literally, there is no head. He's like, no, I have a head. I have a head. You just can't see it.
No worries.
You also get to talk to Il and learn more about his Otome obsession. And his room is great because it has a bunch of the like memorabilia from Otome games. So you've got a bunch of Code Realize stuff in his room. You've got some Collar Cross Malice stuff in his room. You got some that I don't recognize, so that's kind of wild. But like it's pretty funny to look in his room and see all this merch.
When you're the one company that makes a lot of Otome games, you can basically pick and choose what you want to throw into your Otome games, license-wise.
Basically, yeah. And I love that they're just like, you know what, this Fallen Angel, loves Atome. Just absolutely loves it. He's
We
all
make
about it.
Atome games. Let's just put him in there.
And she even asked him at one point, like, shouldn't you play games where like you play as a guy and pursue ladies? And he's like, no, like this is what I like. I tried those, I just didn't like them. She's like, okay, you do you. Just cool. He also sleeps on a like hammock so that he has more room for the merch. Just funny.
Living the life.
Living the life. He says that that is how he learned about the concept of love. Just cute. You end up going like this is really the like few chapters of getting to know the guys,
Yeah.
and this is the common route for every single one. You going shopping at one point with Canis, and a lot of people keep talking to him, and like she realizes, oh hey, he's friends with a lot of people. That's kind of interesting since he has no head. And like these high school girls come up and it's like, oh Candace, you got a girlfriend. She's like, no, not the girlfriend. They're like, oh, why don't we take a cute picture of you guys? Why don't you like, make the hand heart together? And so they do that at one point, and it's great because Canis he has a neck flame in place of where his head would be.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on his emotions, his neck flame changes colors. And so in
My neck mood ring.
basically, yeah, like you can never pretend to be anything else because you're like, oh, well, his neck flame turned a different color. Like you said you're not mad, but you're clearly mad. But his neck flame turned all like pinky red because he was real excited about the hand heart thing. You get to like go on a car ride with Rindo at one point, so he can talk.
Vroom.
Good God. So he can talk to you about the GPMO, and you end up meeting Akira. I forget how to pronounce that name.
Second way.
Akira.
Yeah, Akira.
Okay. He is the R&D director at GPMO, and he has a very childlike appearance, and he has a little stuffed animal thing that he carries around with him. Apparently he's like 29, so he's kind of got the same situation as me. He's got super baby face. Not explained if like he's actually experimented on himself or anything to make that happen, but he's there. So you get to see a little bit of like the goings on there. You get to meet this other kid named Korea Abe, I think is his name. He's a middle schooler, and he is having issues.
Yes, that sounds like what a middle schooler would be having.
Yes, but also his issues are related to the fact that he thinks that he's human, but apparently had an ancestor at one point that was a fairy, and he's now like regressing into being a fairy, so he's having like real bad health issues and also freezes things accidentally. So he causes issues, and Rindo ends up trying to like find him and get stabbed by some icicles, and also almost choked because he just like accidentally like ices his lungs.
Chill out.
And he's like, we're gonna help you. I'm gonna take you in so you can get examined, but also like if you go back to like Medio every once in a while, like this will stabilize. That'd be a good thing, right? And he's like, so he ends up working part-time at your cafe, so that he can be close enough to the gate that he can
Not die.
yeah, basically. And they're like, is it legal for you to hire a middle schooler to work here? She's like, well, he's getting paid by not dying.
That's the loophole.
Yeah, basically. Um, so he finds out that like, his grandmother was a fairy, and um he was scared that his family that he's with now, because he was adopted, where they would reject him if they found out that he was a fairy, and they actually are really cool with it. And he just does his ice thing, which also brings me to the fact that at one point you go to hang out in Beastia, and you end up getting this little seal thing with a horn named Kororo, and he just yells "Q" at you a lot. And he ends up getting along very, very well with Karya, because he likes to be cold, and Karya is an ice fairy. So he just like holds on to him while he's at work, and he's like, "Q, Q, Q." Also headbutts Ignis with the constantly, and they're like, "Oh, that's how he shows affection to his parents." And Ignis is like, "He's headbutting me with a horn. Ow." But through visiting Beastia, you also learned, or Bestia, I don't know how Beastia makes more sense. You learn that Ignis is like the top dog of there. Like, it's a
Literally.
yeah, he's a firewolf. The Beast World is like a very aggressive, everybody wants to fight all the time type environment. And so he's like the number one fighter, but he doesn't kill people. He just attacks them a lot. And so that makes him unique in the world, that he does not actually kill. He's also always hungry. Always hungry. You go to hang out in the fairy world sometimes, and you meet the queen. Her name is Titania. I forget what the actual name is.
Oh yes, from Final Fantasy 14.
She's also in Persona. But she is the fairy queen.
Never heard of it.
And she cannot leave Medio because she is attached to the world tree. She also has a sibling named Vinaya. I don't know how to say these names. I'm just spitballing at this point. Which this character is interesting, because for a time in these routes, Katone just calls them they, or says them they pronouns. So it's like, oh, okay, cool, because she says, I don't know what gender they are, so I'm just going to call them they until I know for sure.
Yeah.
And then at one point she just asked, she's like, what gender do you identify as? And Renee's like, I don't really care. But I guess a guy. So then she switches to he, him pronouns, which is a really nice touch. Like, that's pretty cool that she like respects that she does not know, and then just asks, and then switches to the preferred ones. Like, that's a legit thing in Atome. I appreciated that.
Yeah, it's surprising.
Right. It was very surprising. And like, it's not played up as a joke or anything. It's just, that's all right, cool. And so that is the older brother of the fairy queen, and also the advisor of Medio. He also hates everybody. It just absolutely hates everybody. You also get to meet Dromi at one point. He's like a tiger beast. He's friends with Ignis. He also sucks. He's just very excitable. It's very annoying. You get to go hang out at one point at an Atome festival with Il. And that's fun. It's really, really good. Depending on which route you're on, different things happen. But one of the things that happens no matter what is that like these creepy dudes are like, hey, there's a lot of girls at this Atome event. What if we try and pick up some girls here? And they try and like hit on the protagonist, and Il's like, no, and pulls some like fallen angel stuff and then flies off with her. And Mr.'s like, oh God, why would you do that? Now I got to use magic on all these people so they forget. He's like, whoops, sorry. Just didn't want her to,
Tee.
get hit on. There's also a line, it's like a throwaway line at one point that you're out shopping with Canis and Ignis. And again, like you're learning that everybody's kind of friends with them and doesn't think that they're weird. And this kid just runs up to you. It's like, is this polyamory? And I'm just like, okay. I was like, what?
Well,
they're all like, no, none of us are dating. I was like, what if we all dated? Oh.
kids are educated these days.
It's true. Oh man, I forgot that Il called Otome Games his emotional support. That's really good. So whose route do we want to talk about first? Do we want to talk about routes I did not like as much, or the routes that I did like?
Whichever you want to go with.
How about we get the 42-year-old out of the way?
Cool.
All right. So Rindo, again, 42 years old.
He has a route. Okay, next one.
He works with the GPMO. He has been there for like over 20
40
years.
years.
No.
He's been there since he was 2 years old.
He comes to the cafe and he interacts with these guys all the time. So like he knows them, he considers them friends, but he's also like, I don't like non-humans. I don't trust non-humans. And she's like, but these guys that you clearly like are not humans. He's like, they're still dangerous. Dangerous. So he makes a lot of references to being an old man all the time, and I'm just like, ew, you're just rubbing in the fact that this is creepy. And it's very uncomfortable. I don't like that he does that all the time. He decides that he is going to take you on a date. And she's like, well, he can't possibly mean like a date. He just means that we want to hang out, right? So he takes her driving in, right? Takes her driving in his sports car, with his stick shift, because he's fancy apparently. Also, like his car is like a Western car that like the driver's side is where our driver's side is. I was like, huh, that's interesting. But I guess maybe like since it's a sports car, I don't know.
Could be. Depends on like the
make
and model, yeah.
So he says that he's going to take her on a date. So he picks her up in the sports car. She's like, oh, so are we just like going for a drive? Is that what we're doing? He's like, I'm actually taking you somewhere. Oh, I forgot to mention something very, very important before I get into this route. I forgot. There is a part in the game where Katone gets thrown into the gate. And she ends up in a island that is nearby her parents' house. And the island is being attacked by skeletons and a giant skeleton fist. And also there are just like all these like wormholes and rifts and things that are happening around the Japan.
The Japan.
So they meet these little like wood doll guys that are like, oh man, we live on this island. We're not humans. We can't protect ourselves from these skeletons. Please help us. And so Il and Mizir ends up doing like a weird like piano thing and attacking. Ignis just like sets a fire around like essentially their military, because the military is like, well, we just got to go bomb that island now. And this is like, no, I'm just gonna set up this ring of fire around you. Now you can't go anywhere. It's fine. We'll handle it. So anyway, important to note, because when you go to Rindo, like Rindo's date, he says instead of driving, I'm gonna take you back to my apartment. She's like, what? Why are we going back to your apartment? Oh my goodness. So he takes her to his luxury apartment that she's like, huh, this doesn't look very lived in. He doesn't have any kind of like hobbies around. His kitchen doesn't even have plates. This is kind of weird. And he's like, oh, I have somebody that I want you to meet. And she's like, does he have a girlfriend? And he comes out and he's like, huh, okay, so you're asking if I have a girlfriend. No, I don't. But also, here, it's one of these little wooden guys from the island. He wanted to say thank you. And he says thank you. And you end up cooking with Rindo at one point because he's like, yeah, I used to cook because, like, you know, it'd get the ladies, but I stopped. It's like, oh God, I hate you so much. The little wooden guy gets like completely toasted, like super, super drunk, which is pretty funny. And at one point in the evening, Rindo is like warning her about the situation. Is also like trying to say, hey, you know, I'm old and you should stay away from me. But he gets a little bit in her space and like she thinks he's gonna smooch her. And then her phone starts going, or his phone starts going off, and Mizru's like, hey, you're getting a little too close to her now. Oh my God, they're monitoring you? Like, what are they, your parents? What is happening? So he realized, like, hey, I gotta be careful if I'm gonna, like, try and smooch you, because these dudes are gonna kill me, because they're non-humans. He also opens up to you with the fact that he knows Akira, and that Akira's like, hey, I want you to help me find something for my girlfriend. It's like, one, you have a girlfriend? That's wild. And so she goes shopping with him, and Akira's like, hey, you know, come hang out. I want you to see my girlfriend, get her gift. The stuffed animal that he's holding, he just like takes it off and is like, hey, look, here's your gift, girlfriend. Isn't this cool? Yay. And the stuffed animal opens their eyes, and Tony's like, huh, that's weird. And then Akira lifts his sleeve, and there's just like a ton of scars, and he's like, all right, feeding time. And then like the little doll starts like feeding blood off of his arm. And yeah, Rendo's like, so I didn't want you to see that. That's my sister. I was like, what?
Okay.
So apparently his sister at some point was experimented on and became a non-human. And now she is the stuffed animal like thing that Akira keeps on his being. And she needs blood to survive, so she just feeds off of his arm. And Rendo's like, yeah, I don't really know how to tell people, like, everybody thinks she's dead because, you know, she's kind of that. But, you know, he has this whole, like, complicated thing of, I don't like non-humans, but my sister's a non-human. And so he's been trying to figure out, like, how do I turn her back? And Akira's trying to turn her back. It's real borked. I forget, at one point something completely bananas happens, and I'm trying to remember what it is. But essentially Rindo just gets like KO'd. Like he gets a curse put on him. Oh, I remember. There's like a code red at the headquarters, and he goes in because his underlings are calling him asking for help. So he goes in and he gets attacked by a shadow beast who says his name, and he's put under a curse. And so they take him back to the cafe, and they're doctoring him because they're like, we can't really take him to a hospital like this because they're not going to know what the heck is happening. So Il is trying to fix him, but he's like, yeah, I don't think he's gonna make it. And Katone, she gets a call from Akira, and Akira's like, hey, come to the park by yourself, and I need to meet with you. And he meets and says, hey, you know, I've been trying to figure out how to turn his sister back into a human and not this. But I also heard that Rindo is under a curse and that you need to heal him. So here is this thing that will turn him into a non-human, and that's the only way to fix him at this point. So you can either bad end and not give it to him, or you give it to him and turn him into a non-human, and now he has metal arms and like half of a like weird demonic face. Um, and he is verbally thanking you for saving him, but at one point when she's outside, she hears it, but he doesn't realize it. He's like yelling at Canis about like how he doesn't want to be a non-human and he should have died and da 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 da. So she's like, "Oh no, I done goofed."
I done goofed.
So she decides that she's going to take him on a date to an amusement park in his non-human form, so that he can understand that she loves him no matter what he is. Sure. And he's kind of freaked out, but that happens. Um, and then like the headquarters once again gets attacked, and there's like this big slimy stuff all over the headquarters. Turns out the sister and Akira are both attacking now, and that he discovered that the way to turn her back is to absorb the souls of others. So she's just trying to absorb all the souls of all the people that work there. You also learn in this process that the sister was actually purposefully turned into a non-human because she was going to out the research department for unethical practices and turning like prisoners into non-humans without consent. And so they're just like, well, we know a way to shut you up. Inject. So the two non-human siblings get into a fight, and eventually Rindo wins, and his sister goes bye-bye, and Akira also dies. I think he dies. Yeah, I think he dies. Pretty sure he dies. Anyway, not relevant. Rindo, is non-human now, and he has to deal with that and has to deal with his non-human hating ways when he is now a non-human, and they date, and that's basically his route, and he sucks. Interestingly enough, the one person who is not a non-human becomes non-human by the end of it. So yeah, Rindo, 42-year-old man.
Yep.
I'll go with Il's next. Il likes his Atome. His first date that he takes you to is at an Atome Cafe event, which has a big like wall thing of Yanagi from Call Across Malice, which is cool. Also some Code Realize stuff. And you find out that like his obsession with Atome is that like he was given an Atome game a while back, and this one Atome game in particular was very, very impactful on him, and that's how he learned about like love, and that's how he's been trying to figure out human emotions, and he has a very hard time understanding human emotions. He's very calculating, which I'll get to that in a bit. And so at one point, they're just like hanging out, and Katone is sent by Akira's assistant, which he's the guy with like the hood and like the paper in front of his face for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
He sends her a Switch with a remastered copy of that first Atome that Il was talking about. It has been remastered for the 10th anniversary. He's real stoked about it. She's real stoked about it. So she starts playing it. And every once in a while, she's like, there are some striking similarities here with you and this guy. Interesting. And you keep getting like Il talking to himself. Basically, he's like, she's going to find out. She's going to find out. And he's like, no, everything's fine. Wee. He's kind of like airheaded-ish, since he doesn't understand things.
Things.
Yeah. And at one point they joke around that the reason that he's a fallen angel is because of his love of Otome, which is not true, but oh god, I forgot that Rindo says check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Good.
So anyway, I don't remember a whole lot of Ill's route other than the fact that like turns out that assistant is actually the other angel, like God's left hand man, I guess, because Ill was his right hand man. Yeah. And he's trying to make you realize that Ill has actually taken on the name and personality of one of the characters in the Otome game. And she ends up realizing this because he says lines that are word for word lines from the game to her. And she's like, wait a minute. I know that. And Ill kind of like freaks out when she realizes this. And they end up going. Wait, he ends up getting kidnapped at one point, I think, so that he can get reprogrammed by God. Who is an AI
Sure.
machine that is also an organ.
Sure.
Yep. How do I not remember this? I just played this route recently. Also, there's like this big ship that's wrecked in heaven-ish, the Kaelm, whatever the heaven-ish name is. And that's where the gate is this wrecked ship. And
May say it's a shipwreck.
yeah, basically. It looks like a big ark, like what you would think of as Noah's Ark. That's what it looks like. And Ill explains at one point, like, I hung out here after I ran away the first time. And the reason that he is a fallen angel the first time is because his job is that he is essentially God's weapon. He is like the ultimate weapon. And he is supposed to exterminate any angels who get emotions. Horrifically. So there are essentially these like two historian angels that one's a guy and one's a gal, and they get emotions and they hide out and they're trying to like write about the history of the world. Also, they end up getting like a jammer. And so they use the jammer on Ill and have him sit down and they like talk to him about the history and talk to him about emotions and make him start to feel things, which is when he gets all fallen-y. Well, he gets all fallen-y a little bit later. But anyway, they try and like befriend him. And eventually he is found by the left-hand man guy thing with a spear. And he's like, all right, murder them now. And so he does, because that's when he's commanded to do something, he does it. And then he's sad. And at one point, like the word love is mentioned. He's like, I don't know what that is. I want to know what that is. What is happening? Oh no. So then he becomes the fallen angel, which he's not completely fallen. Like most of his wings are white, but his tips are black. But he just kind of goes into like this weird, like comatose state. Like he can only say like, what is love, which is hilarious.
Baby, don't hurt me.
But he goes and hangs out by the shipwreck and finds the gate and is like, I'm gonna just go in here. And Katone's grandpa is like, hey son, you're all right? Why don't you come get some drinks or something? And Ill can't talk to him. And this goes on for like a few months or weeks, I don't remember. And at one point, the grandpa's like, Miser, like, help me out. This dude is choose, and like he's an angel and you're a demon, so like y'all should be able to figure something out, right? And so Miser keeps like talking to him and can't figure it out. And at one point he's like walking by a store and sees that Ill just keeps asking about love, and so he sees this like advertisement for an Otome game, and he's like, all right, well I just went in and bought the system and bought the game, and like here, have this thing and learn about love. Hilarious, by the way. What an option. And so that's when he ends up adopting the whole like Ill persona, is he just picks it up from the game, because essentially angels are like calculators, like they are like data crunchers. And
can you play Doom on an angel?
Probably. Like they're basically computers. And so he just like programs himself to be Ill, basically. And They're like, well, that's all right. And Mizer's like, I feel really bad about this, but also like I'm very protective of him. I think of him as like a little brother. Um, and Il ends up getting taken back to the angel world and held on by the other angel. And God's like, well, time to reprogram you so you'll never become fallen again.
Whoa.
Also, we're just gonna throw a bunch of angels at you. So all the kiddos that we know and love go and try to save him. And you end up meeting this other fallen angel. He's the head of the fallen angels. His name is Epilogi. Um, he's the one that I showed you that just has like the T out.
Nice.
Yeah. And he meets you because Ill's about to just completely destroy you with his angel weaponry. And this dude uses a jammer and was like, nope, not happening. So it kind of gives you like a history of what's going on with the angels and why fallen angels are who they are and da 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 da. Basically, you got to go storm the tower, save Ill, and kill God.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's basically like a JRPG at this point. Like I said, God is like a computer AI, but also has an organ, like a piano organ around him. And he explains that he has been trying to invade other worlds so that he can make more angels. And also the island that was attacked by the skeletons, he says that he was the one that orchestrated that. There's this whole thing with like them fighting in the tower, and Mizur ends up like tying up with the other angel, and Katone gets sent ahead, and she's trying to basically destroy everything so that God dies. But at one point, like Ill is like choking her because he's been deprogrammed and he's like weaponry. And then she says his name, and he remembers and becomes fallen again. God's like, oh my God, are you serious?
Oh, by me.
Oh my me. Why do you keep falling? Why do you keep getting emotions? Ill's like, I'll just keep getting emotions every time. You can keep doing this, but like every time I'm gonna get the emotions back. So yeah, you fight together and kill God. Yay.
As you do.
Yeah. And that's essentially how his route goes down. Canis is interesting because Canis, you find out that his world Medio, like the big tree, the world tree, they say that it is very similar to like Earth plants, but it's huge.
So it's like a tree.
Yes. But it's not magical. And but it is kind of magical because it also eats people. So Canis Espada is known of like the Night of Death or the Death Knight or something like that. I forget what they call him. Because at one point Canis is like, hey, I gotta go do things. I'll be back. And Katone sees him. He's like, oh hey, what's up? And like he doesn't hear her, and he's also slaughtering fairies. And she's like, why are you killing the fairies? And he basically freaks out and says, you can't bring your morality into my world because like this is my job. This is what I do. I have to kill the fairies in order for us to survive. And she's like, ah! So you end up talking to the fairy queen. She's like, yeah, so I'm attached to the tree. And the issue is that I think it was 500 years ago. There were 3 of us siblings, and our sister was the previous Death Knight. And in order to keep this tree happy and not murder all of the fairy citizens, we have to the fairy queen on this contraption that the tree just basically sucks her soul out. Yay.
Good.
Yeah. And so Vinaya is like, I'm not into that. I don't like that idea. I don't want my sister to be soul sucked. um, but my other sister died because she was trying to prevent this. And at one point, the tree gets injured and the tree just starts eating fairies again. She's like, oh no, but the soul thingy, it's taking my soul. Why is it eating other fairies?
Nom, nom,
And,
nom.
and so they go to investigate. For some reason, Katone goes. I'm like, why are you here? But she goes, and then Vinaya's like, hey, you know what? I have an idea. What if I just remove the fairy queen from this and just throw Katone in? Yay! And Vinaya's basically like, yeah, Katone's gonna die because she's a human, and I just threw her on this thing, and that's probably a bad thing. But like, I need Candace to be mad enough that he destroys this tree. Since our sister couldn't do it, I need someone else to do it. And so, like, Canis, this whole time, his entire identity has been like the Death Knight and killing these fairies so he can feed the tree. And so now he's having this struggle of like, oh God, everything I know is bad at this point. And also the woman that I'm in love with is being eaten by this tree. So he decides that he's going to rebel against the tree. As you do. Ends up destroying the ever-loving heck out of it. Also, I'm very truncating his story here. I'm sorry, but
It's fine.
This is the gist of it essentially. So he destroys the tree because he wants Katone to survive, and she also just kind of like fights back somehow with like the power of will. And so once the tree is destroyed, like all the fairies who were eaten by the tree, like their souls are let go.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the souls of the fairies like implant themselves into Katone to give her her life back. And so Canis Espada takes you to the top of the tree, which is his favorite spot in the entire world, and tells you that in the beginning. And it's like nighttime and it's really pretty. Oh, by the way, the entire season happens in one day, every single day in Medio. Like you start off, and I think it's anyway, you end up in winter, but you start off it's like spring, and then you get to fall, and then winter. Every single day it happens like that. It's crazy. So it's wintry, and like the souls are happening, and Katone looks back at Canis Espada and like smiles of like, he has a head, because they say that you can only see the head if you're fairy, because like Korea can how did I say his name?
Karia?
Karia Abe, the ice fairy. He
Not the
tells
country of Korea.
not the country. He tells you like, yeah, he has a head, I can see it, like I can see his face and everything. And then they ask him to draw him, and he draws like this really terrible drawing of him. He's like, you asked me to draw him. This is what I came up with. And he explains like, I'm a really terrible artist. Candace is like, oh, thank God. I thought that I just looked like that, and I was really upset. So you do find out that like people with fairy blood can see his face generally. He can't see it very well. Abe can't see it very well because he's only half-ish. But he can see that it exists. And so when she like looks back at I was like, he has a head, she can see the head because she's got the fairy souls in it, but they don't show you, and it was real sad.
It's rude.
I know. There's also a part earlier where he is staying at a room in the cafe, because also him and Ignis board at the cafe when they're not in their homelands. And he's just like asleep, and then he wakes up and Katone's there, but she doesn't know that he's awake because no head. So she's just like poking at him and like talking about him and trying to figure out what to do. And Abe comes in and he's like, "Oh yeah, he's awake. He's been awake this whole time. Like, I don't know what you're saying about him being asleep." Candace is like, "Oh my god, why would you tell her that? I was embarrassed." But yeah, I was real bummed that I didn't get to see his head when she turned around and smiled at him, and I was like, "Oh man." But it was only a temporary thing. Like you didn't get to see his head forever. But I guess at least she kind of knows what's there besides the flame.
Ahead.
Ahead, yes. Hilarious. One of my favorite characters in this game. Like they give you a bunch of hot anime dudes, and I'm like, ah, yes, the headless one. I want that one.
Because you saw him eating donuts.
I saw him eating donuts, and I
This
was
headless man eating donuts.
I wanted to date him immediately, and he's one of my favorites. But yeah, he's the headless donut man. And at one point, she asked like, "How does he actually eat the things?" Because like food just goes near his like head flame and just disappears. She's like, "Ah, how does this work?" But I don't want to ask him. Okay, we'll go to Ignis now. He is the fire wolf.
Ooh.
He's got his Nyan shirt that he wears whenever he's in the world. Also does like his sweet skateboarding stuff.
He was a skater boy. He said, "See you later, boy."
So his plot is that these minotaurs keep showing up in Japan around the cafe, and they're from Bestia, and they're trying to defeat him, and they're all like hazy-eyed, weirded out kind of things, and he's freaked out. At one point, like Katone is trying to get away from the Minotaur, and the Minotaur doesn't even hurt her, but she like hits her hand on the wall and starts bleeding a lot. And he's just like, "Oh no, this is bad." And he starts like licking her wound, and I was like, "No, bad wolf, no, that's not sanitary." But he just continued to do that. But then it was awkward because they're like, "Oh no, I just licked your blood. This is weird." So they have to figure out like why is this happening? What is happening to Bestia that these minotaurs keep showing up? Also, he mentions a few times like every time I go back to my world, like somebody's there prepped to try and defeat me because I'm the powerful one. But you know, I kick their asses and send them home. That's what I do. It comes up again like he's the one that does not kill people. He just injures them and then sends them home. The Minotaurs keep showing up, so he eventually is like, "All right, I gotta go investigate. We're gonna go investigate what's going on in this area." So they end up going to his hometown, which is like a igloo-ish area, but there's fire, and there are not many fire wolves there. One of them is his uncle, and Kitone's like, "Hey, you know, it's kind of weird. There's not many of you. What's up with that?" So he ends up telling his tragic backstory, and like he's hugging her, and his entire like what's the word I'm looking, tribe, family,
Sure.
species, I don't know, his entire group, they get attacked, and they're dying, and they can't really fight back, and he's freaking out. And he blacks out, and when he wakes up, most of his tribe's dead, and everybody who was attacking is dead. And his uncle's like, "Yeah, you know, the marauders ended up killing all of our people, and then you killed those guys." Or yeah, I don't think he said you killed them, but anyway, he's like, you took him out. Good job, buddy. You're the ultimate fighter."
Oh, he's in the UFC.
God. So he explains like, you know, I don't want to kill anybody, and that's my mantra. I can't kill. That's who I am as a person. And she's like, "Oh, well, you know, that's why I like you, is because you don't kill people, and it's fine." You know, this is obviously going to go places that don't involve killing people. So they're dealing with things, and they end up finding like this shrine thanks to Kororo, the little sealy guy. Kororo. I want a little stuffed version of him. He's adorable. But he takes you to the shrine, and then the shrine's like, "Oh hey, there's this like insane fire beast that exists, and there was a time where humans came, and the humans were basically like poking around with this fire wolf, and that was bad, and everybody died." Um, they've also specified at one point that Ignis is the only person from Bestia who can actually eat. Like the other ones don't have the internal organs necessary to eat. Like they don't ever eat anything, which is interesting. But like he's constantly eating. He's constantly shoving food in his face. So they're like, that's kind of weird that you can eat, but nobody else can eat. And so like I thought maybe he was part human at this point. Not the case. Apparently, whenever he sees like whenever he gets into like a frenzy essentially because of attacking and he sees certain amounts of blood, he goes into this like insane mode where he just murders everybody and eats them. And this has happened a few times, but he doesn't know it. And he's just like, yeah, black out when I get like too into it. It's kind of weird, right? And at one point he says that around Akira, and Akira's like, I've never heard of that before. That's interesting. But yeah, it turns out that there's this like giant fire wolf being that existed, and that Ignis is probably the descendant of. And so they get all this information. They're going back to the firewolf area. Oh no, it's being attacked again. What? And so Ignis is trying to like fight him off, and then he finds out at one point like, oh hey, it wasn't the Marauders who killed everybody. I killed everybody. I was the one who went into a frenzy. I actually ate my best friend. Whoops. Like these minotaurs like throw his best friend's like bracelet at him. It's like, yeah, you did that. You ate him. Good job, buddy. Like talking about you don't kill anybody. You killed your best friend and your entire family. Good job. And so he starts having issues. And ends up, destroying and eating several minotaurs. And he's just got like blood pouring from his face at one point. And Katone's like, hey, this isn't you. You don't kill people. And he takes a bite out of your arm and starts eating some of your arm flesh.
Arm flesh.
Arm flesh. He
Turns
also
into
like
Loki.
basically, he also like burns Ill's wings at one point and like threatened to eat him, which is why Katone got taken instead, is that she stood in front of Ill before he got eaten and took the bitey out of the arm. When he came to, he's like, Katone's bleeding. That's bad. What's going on? Oh God, what did I just swallow? That's weird. And then he realized like, oh God, I ate her skin. So she's having issues and he's having issues and he just freaks out. Everybody in the cafe is like trying to figure out what to do because they're like, he's kind of dangerous to have around. She's healing, and like if anything happens and he smells her blood, like he has a taste for human flesh now. Like it's bad. So he's threatening to like basically lock himself up. And she doesn't want that, so they go back to the little shriney thing. Also, we end up meeting up with Dromi there. And like I said, Dromi is the very annoying little tiger guy. And he has been living with the fire wolves because his entire tribe got exterminated. But turns out he's like the keeper of this legend about the big fire wolf guy. And he's like, yeah, so I've been orchestrating everything that's been going on because I want to turn you into that. I'm kind of sick of this world and like the fact that it killed my family. So I just want to see everything burn. Like, you know, just destroy everything. That'd be cool, right? So he basically just goes full psycho on you. And he has Katone, and it is like, hey, you want a tasty snack? Here's a tasty snack. You want a tasty snack? And Ignis is just like, no, leave me alone. I'm just stuck in this shrine. This is where I'm going to stay. Everybody's imprisoned me here. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Leave me alone. Um, so then Jerome's like, well, what if I eat her then? That seems like a good idea. So he starts like trying to take a bite out of her, and Ignis turns into the fire wolf.
Ooh.
So he is a giant beast of a guy, like huge fire wolf. And so everybody's having to coordinate and try and take down this fire wolf. And like, we got to kill him. Like, that's what we got to do. We got to kill him. And Katone, being a protagonist and Atome, is like, no, we're going to stop him with love. So she ends up like yelling at him about like how he's not like this. He's not a killer. How she's in love with him. And you get like the CG of her like hugging onto this giant fire wolf face. And then eventually, after talking a bit, like you see the fire wolf crying. And I should mention that like this thing is bigger than anything else. Like this is like skyscraper type fire wolf, not like a person-sized fire wolf.
The two sizes, person,
Yes.
skyscraper.
So this fire wolf starts crying, and then he turns into Ignis again, and Ignis is like, holding on to her and crying, and he's saying like, I just want to be the man of your dreams, and he's got that stupid tribal tattoo. He doesn't want to eat her, and
For now.
well, I'll get to that. And so yeah, everything's fine now. Jerome gets taken in for questioning because, you know, he orchestrated this whole thing and Minotaur attacks and, you know, bad things. Also giving the Minotaurs drugs. Sure. So everything is fine. And Ignis ends up like helping out in the cafe, and I think he just like moves in there basically. Because he's like, yeah, my uncle lied to me and that's bad. And also I just don't really like Beastie anymore. This sucks. So they're talking at one point, and I showed you the CG, I'm pretty sure. I was like, ew, don't do that. But he like licks her mouth. And I was like, don't do that. And then he like leans back, and I have the quote here. He says, as your man, I'm the only one who gets to eat you. Can't lie, it feels pretty good. And then he just smooches the heck out of you. Like a real smooch, not a I'm gonna lick your face type smooch, which that's so weird. Don't lick people's mouths. Don't do that.
Lick.
He actually ended up being one of my favorites. I didn't expect that at all. Like based on like just looking at him, I was like, I'm not gonna like this guy. He's gonna be a weirdo. But he was pretty good. He was pretty good. He was one of the sweeter ones, you know, besides eating your flesh. Which brings us to the final route.
The final route.
Which is Monsieur Rex. So as I have mentioned before, he is the Demon King. He also very much likes the coffee. Also, something that's worth mentioning is that Monsieur Canis and I think, yes, they all knew Katone when she was like 5 and like was around the cafe with her grandpa. She was just kind of like hanging around. But she didn't remember any of them. And I was like, how do you not remember a man with like a helmet on his head? How do you not remember that? Or a man with horns? How do you not remember these things? But anyway, let's go to Mizer's route. He is the Demon King, and he this entire time has to make sure that he leaves to go do demon kingly things at a certain time of night. And everyone's like, okay, that's just what he does. That's interesting. Nothing suspicious about that at all. That he has to be there by a certain time.
Nope.
There is this guy that keeps popping up through wormholes, and he is claiming that he is the Demon King, and he's got these slugs with him. And at one point, they all go to like a warehouse and see this guy, and he's like, "Yes, I am the Demon King, and I have things that I'm going to do." And Mizra's just like, "No," and just like punches him and knocks him back through the wormhole, and he like makes a joke about it. She's like, "Hole in one, you hole in one him." He's like, "I don't think that's a phrase, but like, okay." But he kind of comes across as like this jokey character, and you're like, huh, why does he keep calling himself the Demon King? Like, you're the Demon King. He's like, yeah, obviously I'm the Demon King, duh. So Katone, again, being an Otome protagonist, at one point the slimes come up to her and Abe, and they're like, hey, the Demon King has been talking about you all night, and like how beautiful you are, and how he wants to marry you, and like we need you to come see him. And she's like, oh, Mizir wants to come see me, or wants me to see him? Sure, I'll go with you. Yeah, definitely him. No, it's the other guy. And ends up kidnapping her and taking her to the demon world, and is like, you're my bride now. I'm in love with you because I saw you and you're beautiful.
That's how it works.
Yep. And so the rest of the squad's like, all right, well, we gotta go get her back. That's bad. So they go and storm the castle, and Mizir's the one who finds you, and because of course you're in the throne room. Like, why would you not look there first? And the demon guy introduces himself as Astaroth, I'm pretty sure, and the Demon King, and Mizra's like, yeah, so I'm not actually the Demon King. This guy is. But also we're just gonna fight now because like you can't have her, and you know, it kind of sucks to like make implications like you were just making. So yeah, let's end this. So they do some magic-y fights, as you do. And then it keeps coming up over and over and over, like, all right, I've got like 2 hours, I've got an hour. Like, he keeps looking at his pocket watch, trying to make sure that he's like got his time right. Turns out he doesn't have his time right. And he ends up turning into this monstrosity with like big skeleton wings and like no face. He basically looks like a scary version of Amon from Shadow Hearts. Like, he kind of looks like that, but with bone wings instead of like the wings that he has.
Cool.
He is pretty cool. Also, he just obliterates the entire Demon King's castle. Just completely obliterates it. Turns it into ash. And Katone's like, Mizra, is that you? He's like, yep, don't get near me. I turn things ash. This is my actual form. Hello. He thought that he had time. He did not have time. So this is his true form, and he is not the Demon King at all. He is actually from, I forget the name of the world, but it's like basically the world of end times, I think is what he calls it. And it's just like an ashy world because he turns everything to ash. Yay. So he basically like throws you back to the other guys. He's like, all right, now you know my secret, and this is terrifying. I will eventually come back to you at the cafe because we got to talk about some things over some coffee, because like I got a lot to answer for now.
Just casually.
He doesn't show up for many, many days, and everyone's like, oh man, like, you know, we don't know how to get back to him because, you know, the only way to get to other demon worlds is by going through the gates, and you have to touch the door for the, like, with somebody who goes to that world. and none of us belong to like the world of end times. None of us do, so we can't get back to him. She's like, oh, he's abandoned me. Oh no. Um, Also, before all this happened, he had a coffee cup that he was like, I want coffee in this particular cup. It's a very busted cup, but it's my favorite. Also, don't break it. That cup becomes important. So anyway, um, oh, also, while he is in his Aman form and is turning things into ash, he also ends up turning Astaroth's arm and leg into ash. Which, yikes.
That sounds painful.
Yeah, Astaroth ends up getting arrested by the GPMO, and he like reforms his limbs somehow. I guess demons. But yeah, there's a lot going on here, and turns out that there was this whole like human quest long time ago in the times of Genesis, is how they word it. That the humans were put onto arcs with these gates back to the human world, so they could go explore other worlds. And I was like, oh yes, human colonialism. That makes sense. That is exactly what we would do. So they like infiltrate the other worlds, and so essentially this is how all the worlds came to be. Like the big tree in Medio, humans went to this area and they planted trees, and this big monstrosity that here. The humans ended up becoming angels. They like the beast. Yeah, it's basically human. Also, that shipwreck that I was telling you about in Ill's world, like that's what this was, and that's why the gate was there, is because it was the gate to the human world. Anyway, so this happened in the times of Genesis, and turns out that Mizir was one of the people that was on one of the Ark missions, and they ended up shipwrecking at the world of end times, and everybody that was on the mission with him died basically immediately, because you can't survive as a human in that world. You like end up coughing up blood, and like your skin gets all gross, and he's the only one that survived, and essentially he spent like thousands of years just like adapting to the environment and becoming that monstrosity that he is. But he's the only one there, so he like has spent all this time just like burying the people and hanging out with their graves.
Fun.
Yeah, he also at one point decided, I don't like this, and I'm going to go look for the Ark and the door because this sucks. And he found out a way of like cloaking himself in a different like look and different kind of magic so that he can, not turn everything into ash all the time. So he ended up going and doing that. But before he did that, at one point, a wormhole thingy opened, and there is a small child that comes and talks to him. He's like, hello. And he's like, I want to murder you. And she says, huh, it sounds like your throat's really dry. Let me go get you coffee. I'll be right back. And so she goes back and she brings out this specific coffee cup and it's like, here, have coffee. This will make your voice not sound so rough. And he decides like, hey, I don't want to kill you anymore. Thanks for the coffee. I'm going to take this cup now and go back in my little wormhole. So that's why he starts looking for the door, is so that he can actually like find that cafe and thank the little girl. Wow, surprising. It's Katone! Woo!
I, for one, am shocked.
So shocked. So he ended up finding the cafe again, but she wasn't there because she had moved away with her parents. But he ended up liking the cafe, her grandpa, so he just hung around a lot. And also like helped with Ill and all those shenanigans. Um. So yeah, he is this weird like evolution human thing. And so they're trying to figure out like, well, how do we fix this? And I forget exactly how she gets there, but she ends up in the world of end times. Also, as I said, it is a harsh environment. It is not somewhere where a human could be. So she starts coughing up blood. Um, and so he finds her and is like, okay, I have to figure out how to rescue you. I like have. Oh, I remember how she gets there. Okay, reverse. Um, Mizra comes out of the door and is like, hey, I want you to come see my world. I want to talk about this. Will you come with me? And so she goes, and then like they end up talking for a few sentences, and she's like, wait a minute, you are not you. You said you would come to the cafe so that we could talk about it. We're not in the cafe right now, and also you're saying things that are weird. He's like, yeah, you got me. It's not actually me. I kind of took all of his powers. And I'm the world.
Sure.
Yep. So Mizir ends up showing up in like his demon king form. And it's like, this is bad. I need to protect you. Oh no. And so he just like picks her up, and he's also like in bad shape. And he's taking her to the door. He just wants to get her out of there. And he gets to the door and he's like, yes, we made it. We got away from him. It's fine. And then the other guy shows up and is like, I told you, I am literally the world. I know exactly where you are at all times. Also, you know what? I'm just going to do you a favor right now. It punches him through the chest and then throws him into the cafe door.
That's one way to do it.
That's favor. And then he ends up like taking Katone, and she's like, no, this stinks. So when you are back with Mizur, everybody in the cafe is like, yeah, we patched you up. Things seem a little bit different for you now, huh? And he like looks at himself and realizes like, I'm a human again. Huh. Um so the dude basically just like made him into a normal human form again. So he keeps like trying to do things. They're like, dude, you are a human. Stop. So they decide like, oh hey, we have to go on a rescue mission. Like this is real bad. We gotta save her. The world is talking to Katone, and it turns out that his name is Noah. Who's shocked?
Me.
And that Noah is basically like the personification of the world of end times and like hatred and da 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 da. Because when the humans were working on the Ark experiment type thing, they decided that they wanted to test out the whole wormhole thing. And so he's like, oh hey, I'm not really exceptional, but I'll help with this. This is cool, fine, sure. And they're like, oh yeah, by the way, since you're not exceptional, bloop, have fun in that wormhole. So he gets sad, and he turns into the world, and it's a mess. So Noah, since he was like basically with Mizir that whole time, since he was the only person in that world, and he's like, Mizir wouldn't become friends with me, and that was sad. And also, I saw you through the wormhole, and you were so nice to him, and I want you to be nice to me, and also I'm in love with you, so let's become one now. And he starts like absorbing her, basically. So she loses her physical form, and they go on this rescue mission, and they're trying to figure out like, well, where would she be? And he realizes like, oh hey, she's gonna be by the graves. And Noah's like, hey, what up? Yeah, she's not here. I mean, she's here technically, but like her body's not here. Her body doesn't exist anymore. And Mister ends up having like a talk with him and is like, let's be friends. Let's be bros. Everything's fine, man. Like, you could have just said that's what you wanted. And they end up like in a weird, like ashy version of the cafe and have a coffee together. And Noah's like, oh no, I have messed up. I am sorry. Um, Before I go, Katone, you are now the world.
What?
So you get to decide whatever you want it to be like. And so she basically doesn't have a form anymore. She's like a non-human world. And so that like tea party area in the cafe at the beginning, like she basically recreates that as her world and she can only exist there. But it's inside the cafe somehow. Mizir ends up like working as a co-owner at the cafe and like he can sometimes interact with her depending on what's going on. But for the most part, she's just like non-tangible, non-human, and they end up, you know, running the cafe. And that's how it ends. Like he's a human, she is not. And I don't like that. I think that sucks.
Seems like a bad ending.
It is a bad ending. Like that's their best ending. And I'm like, I don't like this at all. Like basically she says like, oh, hey, you know, I'm just going to be here forever now, I guess. Like this is just who I am. I'm this world. And now you're going to die because you're a human. And I was like, doesn't it make more sense that like they would have both been human and just had a normal life together running the cafe?
No.
Like that's what I would have done is like have a way that they're both human. They just run this cafe for their friends. Like, why would that not be what you do? But instead, like she doesn't exist anymore. So like she can't like interact with her friends or her family. The only ones she can interact with are like these guys. And like only sometimes can she like be tangible. And I'm like, I don't like this. So like I liked his route up until this point, and then I was just like, this is stupid. Why would you do this to her? I was really mad, and like that's how I ended the game because you have to do every single route to lead up to his, and then like when you get to that, I was like, what is this? Really? We're gonna end it with her being a world? And it just seems so dumb. Like I thought it would be a super cool thing. Like I thought that the direction they were going is that they would both be human and just like have a regular lifetime together and hang out and run the cafe, and like they run the cafe together, but like I don't know. I didn't like that.
It doesn't sound good.
It's not. It's not. And like, you know, Canis and Ignis had like really cute endings, and then this one happened. And it's like, ooh, I don't like this. It's such a bad way to end it too. Like I just satisfied walking away from it.
Yeah.
It was kind of a bummer. Because like I liked some parts of this. But I did not like that. And I told you I was going to mention it. You were supposed to remind me, but I remember now. There's a lot of errors in this game in terms of like the like just typos and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like at one point, she's supposed to say "but," and it's like supposed to be "but."
Yes.
Dot dot dot, and then she's gonna have more sentences, but they typoed it, so now it just says "nut." And it took me forever to figure out what was going on there. I was like, why did she just say nut out of nowhere? It was so weird, but like there are some
Just thinking about that nut.
Thinking about that nut. I mean, you do you, Katone, but like there are a lot of spelling errors or typo errors, and like there are a couple sentences that just don't make sense at all. So that's also not good. I actually noticed it a lot more here than I did with the Fandus for Collar Cross Malice, which that was the one that was like really shat upon on Twitter. Mm-hmm. So I haven't seen anything on this one, but like it's got some errors that are not okay.
Yeah.
Although the nut thing made me laugh. Nut.
No, it's people like, nut.
Nut. Dot, dot, dot. But yeah, otherwise we just have Katone just like yelling about nuts every once in a while, I guess. But that does suck. I wish that they had done a better job with that, but they didn't. So here we are. But yeah, that's basically the gist of it. Also, like Mizura's human form is actually really, really attractive. So I'm super bummed that his route kind of like ended on a bad note.
Ended on a fart. Ended on a nut.
I mean, it basically did end on a fart and sucked. And it's like, oh man, like if you're gonna compare you to Candace and Ignis, like I thought I was gonna like you the best because I really like your personality, but like I don't like this ending. So for the record, Candace Espada is still the best boy of this.
How many donuts did he eat?
Actually, he didn't eat a single donut.
Well, throw this game in the garbage.
He ate like some carrots, I think, at one point, but
Get out of here. It's a cafe, not a Whole Foods vegetarian section.
I think he ate some cake at one point too. Ignis like exclusively eats meat, which is funny.
Well, yeah, he's a wolf. Oh.
Oh, excuse you. He is a fire wolf.
Oh.
Oh, I also thought he wasn't wearing pants at first. When he showed up and I texted you, I was like, this man, his pants are very low cut.
Well, with all that being said,
Time for ranking.
we gotta rank this here a video game.
Okay.
20 games are on this list. We're gonna add game number 21. This list will be legal to drink
Oh man.
and smoke cigarettes, I think now. Wow. I think they have that. I don't remember. Either way, let's figure out where Café Enchanté goes on the list.
Okay.
Al, is it better or worse than the KFC one?
It is better than that.
Better or worse than Amnesia?
Better.
Better than Hakuoki or worse?
It's better.
Better than Love Letter from Thief X?
Better.
Better or worse than Joestar Struck?
Better.
Better or worse than Psychedelica the Ashen Hawk?
Better.
Better or worse than How to Full Boyfriend Holiday Star?
Better.
Better or worse than Bad Apple Wars?
I don't think it can go any higher than that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is not that high up on the list.
It is not. Especially considering how high Piefiore got. Like, this was kind of a big bummer in comparison.
Right.
It's like, oh, man.
Especially going into this, I was thinking like, oh, this seems like it would be all right.
Yeah, like, I mean...
It seems kind of goofy and stuff, but then it's just like, eh.
Yeah, I mean, it was okay. Like, it had some good moments, and like I said, Candace Espada is great. Like, the fact that I could date a headless knight was hilarious. But, like, I just really wanted to like this game and did not like it all that much. It's a bummer. And, like, that ending with Mizura really just ruined it for me.
Yeah. Well, this game slots in at number 14 on the Owl's official ranking of Otome, a top 15 Otome game.
Mm-hmm.
Still a solid entry, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we will return to the list at some point when there are new Otome games coming out. Is there anyone coming to you at any point soon, or are you out?
No, nothing on the horizon. There's been some announced, but nothing.
Nothing like local or getting localizations yet.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, eventually we will return to the list at some point because that's what we do.
Yes.
But for now, that's going to do it for this episode. So if you'd like more from us, go to seasonalanimeCheckup.com or sac.cool where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Seasonal Anime Checkup and Jared and Now Watch. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you want more from AnLadyAim, go to AnLadyAim.com. She's got columns and reviews. Follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/AnimeCheckup. You can buy our books, One Shining Moment, a critical analysis of Love, Life, Sunshine, and Hot Tubs and Pac-Man on Amazon.com.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to look at your book, but it's covered by stuff, so I can't look at it right now.
Oh, no. Why is it covered by stuff?
It's covered by gifts.
Oh. Yeah, Jared got a signed copy. Ooh.
I did. I'm very fancy. You can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza, get access to unedited versions of the podcast early, bonus episodes like we did a ranking of songs that have hero in the title
Yep.
that you can listen to now on patreon.com/SACOVA. A wide variety of songs on that list. That is for sure.
Yep.
So you can find that there. And yeah, next week we're probably going to talk about Yakuza 7.
Probably.
I'm most likely going to be finished with that game by then, so that is most likely what we will be talking about for obviously our annual Thanksgiving tradition. Where I don't know what we do on Thanksgiving, but we have an episode 2 days later.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
So we'll talk about Yakuza most likely next time and discuss how the series went from being a beat 'em up for 7 entries into a Japanese RPG for its 8th entry.
Nice. Also, since Thanksgiving's come up, wear your mask, wash your hands, stay away from people.
Don't eat turkey.
Yeah, don't eat turkey. It's bad.
Treat yourself right.
Be smart.
And be smart. Don't go see family. If you are, you're dumb.
Yeah, I mean, gatherings are yikes. Don't do that.
Thumbs down.
Yeah, I'm gonna have salmon, not turkey.
Treat yourself.
Yeah.